there everyone, it's Nina. Thanks for joining me today for a new video. I'm going to be sharing a project with you using the kitchen sink Enchanted Dogwood stamp layering set. This is a beautiful stamp set that allows you to create some very detailed looking dogwood florals and even some leaves and stems. When you get the stamp set, you're going to notice that you have a sheet here that overlays with the stamps themselves so you can tell which stamps go together to form a picture. And then on the left, you also get this multi-step instructional guide that helps you line up all of the images to create these beautiful detailed flowers. I'm going to walk you through that today. So let's start first with the first layer of the largest flower. That's 1A. I've circled it on screen and I will be circling every piece I use when I'm stamping. For this layer, I'm going to stamp with my lightest ink and then use my blending brush to go ahead and soften that ink even further. So now I'm going to have an even lighter version of my ink, which happened to be Simon Says Stamp Marine ink. Next, we're going to take image 2A, and this lines up right over top of the first image, and the best way to line up this particular stamp is to use the notch along the top. So I'm going to ink up my stamp with my lightest shade again, but this time I'm not using a blending brush to soften it, and instead I'll stamp it full strength. Image 3A is next, and we're going to line that up again using the notch as a guide. I'm going to ink this one up with my second darkest ink, and this one is Cadet. I'll stamp this right over top of my marine stamping, and that's going to create a slightly darker impression over top of those layers. 4A is next. We're going to line that up and pick it up with the door of our stamping tool. I really like using a stamping tool for techniques like this because on this particular layer, we're going to use our second darkest ink and we're going to stamp this a couple of times. So we get a darker impression of that same color. So we're getting basically a new color in between Cadet and our darkest color, which is Royal. 5A is our next image, and I'm going to go ahead and take that and stamp it right into the center of our flower, and I'll stamp that a couple of times as well to get a super dark impression. Now let's stamp the slightly smaller dogwood. We're starting with 1B, and I'm going to ink this up with my lightest shade of pink ink, and this is Carnation. Just like I did for the first stamp, I'm going to go ahead and rub my blending brush over top of this ink to soften it and get up a lot of the excess, and now we'll have a really nice soft impression of Carnation. I'm going to take 2B next, line that up, again using the notch in the top of the image to help guide me as I'm placing these stamps. I'll stamp with Carnation again, and because we're using it full strength, it's slightly darker than our first impression. 3B is our next image. I'll stamp this one with our medium shade of ink, and that's Peony. Peony is a really nice transition between Carnation and then our final color, which will be Rose. I'm now aligning 4B into my stamp positioner. I'm going to pull out Rose now and stamp that right in the center of the flower. So we're getting those really nice deep detailed layers here. I'll stamp this a couple of times to make sure I get a really nice intense impression. And now finally I'm going to stamp the centermost portion of that image, and I'll use Rose again a couple of times to add that nice deep dark color. I'm using the leaf image now to go ahead and stamp the first layer. This will stamp both the stem and the leaf, but we're actually going to cover up the stem with the next layer, and that's going to be stamped in brown. So that first color I used was Aspen, and now I'm going to take Cappuccino, and I'm going to stamp that stem right over top of the green stamping. I'll stamp this a couple of times to get a nice dark impression. Next, I'm going to move on to the second layer. This is 2Y, and this is going to go ahead and add some detail to our leaf. I'm going to line this up over top of the stamped image, and then I will take Sage, which is my second darkest color, and I'm going to ink that up over top of Aspen. Finally, we'll add the teeny tiny details of the leaves with 3Y, and I'm going to use Pine ink from Simon Says Stamp to stamp this particular layer. And that's going to complete all of our stamping. Now you can make many of these beautiful flowers if you'd like, and I did. I created 3 different flowers, and I also stamped the branches and some leaves a few extra times too. So I'm going to start ink blending a panel of white cardstock with some of the Aspen ink. I'm creating a nice halo of color in the middle here, just a light bit amount of ink blending because we're going to add more blending on top of this. Once I have the first round of blending complete, I'm going to pull in Sage now, and this is going to go through the mod layering stencil from Simon Says Stamp and create a tone on tone background. I have this held down with a bit of masking tape, and I'm using Simon Says Stamp's magnetic glass mat to do all of my ink blending. Once we added the first layer of leaves, I'm going to bring in sage once again, and this time stamp it down onto my glass mat. Then I'm going to take some glitter paste. You want a clear glitter paste for this technique, and we're going to color that clear glitter paste with the ink. So I'm going to take a little bit of this paste, smush it down into the ink, and stir it all up until the paste has turned the color of sage. It's a really pretty shade when you mix these two together. For the paste, I'm using some Brutus Monroe glitter glaze. This is the Fallen Snow color. It's a nice clear glitter. And then I'm just going to go ahead and use the second layer of the mod layering stencil and apply my custom glitter paste through that layer. So now we're going to have these beautiful layers of sage colors on top of our background, and it's very tone on tone, very monochromatic, so that way we're not going to distract from the flowers that we're going to put on top. After this dried, I did take a Simon Says Stamp basic rectangle and cut this out so it's slightly smaller than an A2 card. I'm going to pop up my flowers in the center portion of this card using foam tape, and I'm just arranging them in a nice format. Afterwards, I'm stamping a sentiment from the Simon Says Stamp XL Spring Greeting stamp set. I really like this greeting that says, "May your day bloom with happiness." I'm also going to use the coordinating dies to cut the greeting out. I'm stamping this sentiment with Simon Says Stamp clear embossing ink, and I'm going to stamp that image right down onto some slate gray cardstock. So this will look really nice in contrast to our beautiful flowers. I used white embossing powder to sprinkle over top of this sentiment, and then I brought in my heat tool and set the powder. I absolutely love this sentiment. It goes so well with any floral themed cards. I'm going to take the coordinating die and a bit of masking tape to hold the die in place as I run this through my die cut machine. I can use some foam tape to attach the sentiment right underneath my flowers. I love how this card turned out. It's very sparkly and pretty, and I thought I'd add a tad more sparkle by using an aqua shimmer pen for a bit more shimmer on the flowers. This is a very subtle embellishment, but when the card catches the light, you can see how the background and the florals shimmer just a little bit. I think it turned out so pretty. These floral layering stamps from Kitchen Sink are super detailed and create some amazing flowers for your card projects. So this was the Enchanted Dogwood stamp set. And if you're interested in purchasing this set, I do have it linked below in the video description or over on the blog. So be sure to check that out for more details. Thanks so much for tuning in today. I hope you were inspired and I hope you enjoyed. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel for additional inspiration, and I will be looking forward to seeing you again very, very soon. Until then, I hope you have a day that blooms with happiness. Bye!